Have you ever felt lost? Like you've gone too far to turn back? This is a story about a son who thought exactly that, and about a father whose love knew no boundaries. It's not just a story about family. It's a story about every one of us. His name was Daniel, 20 years old, full of dreams and restless energy. He lived with his father Abraham and his older brother Samuel on a prosperous farm they'd built together over generations. Daniel had everything: a loving father, a home, security, purpose. But it wasn't enough. He wanted more. He wanted the world beyond the hills, freedom, adventure, life on his own terms. One morning, Daniel approached his father with a request that would break Abraham's heart.
"Father, give me my share of the inheritance now. I want to leave."
The words hung heavy in the air. Abraham looked at his youngest son, saw the determination in his eyes, the restlessness, the certainty that somewhere out there, life was better than here. Abraham could have refused, could have argued, could have reminded Daniel that asking for inheritance while your father still lives is like wishing him dead. But he didn't. He simply nodded, divided the property, gave Daniel his portion, and watched his son pack his belongings. The morning Daniel left, Abraham stood at the edge of their land, watching his son walk down the road, getting smaller, disappearing into the horizon. Samuel stood beside his father, angry, bitter.
"How could you let him go? After everything we've built, after all you've given him."
Abraham didn't look away from the road. His voice was quiet.
"He's still my son. No matter how far he goes, he'll always be my son."
Daniel didn't look back, not once. Freedom felt exhilarating. The weight of his father's expectations, gone. The burden of family duty, lifted. He was his own man now, master of his own destiny. He traveled to a distant city. Bright lights, endless possibilities, money in his pocket, and the world at his feet. The first month was everything he dreamed. Fine clothes, lavish parties, new friends who laughed at his jokes and drank his wine. Daniel felt alive. This was living. This was what he'd been missing on that boring farm. The second month, the money flowed a little faster, but there was always more. His inheritance seemed endless. By the sixth month, the friends were fewer, the parties less frequent, his pockets lighter. By the 10th month, everything was gone. Every coin, every possession, even the fine clothes he'd bought, sold for food, then sold for rent, then sold for nothing because no one wanted them anymore. Daniel found himself alone, hungry, desperate. The friends who'd laughed at his jokes vanished. The city that had seemed so bright, cold and indifferent. He took the only job he could find, feeding pigs for a farmer outside the city. The lowest work, the most degrading for someone from his background. He was so hungry, he looked at the pig slop and considered eating it. One evening, sitting in the mud with the pigs, Daniel had a moment of clarity. A moment where everything stopped and he saw himself clearly for the first time.
"What am I doing? My father's servants eat better than this. They have beds, dignity, respect. And here I am, starving with pigs."
His father's face came to mind. The look in Abraham's eyes when Daniel had demanded his inheritance. Not anger, not resentment, just sadness. Deep, profound sadness. I left him, rejected everything he gave me, wasted it all. How could he ever take me back? But another thought followed, a desperate, fragile hope. Maybe he'd let me work as a servant. I'm not worthy to be called his son anymore. But maybe, just maybe, he'd give me a job, a place to sleep, food to eat. That's all I need. That's more than I deserve. Daniel made a decision. He would go home. Not as a son. He'd given up that right. But as a servant. He'd beg his father for work, for mercy, for anything. He rehearsed the words as he began the long walk back. Days of walking, nights sleeping on the ground. The same words, over and over. Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. The shame burned inside him. Every step closer to home, the weight grew heavier. What would his father say? What would Samuel say? The whole village would know what he'd done. The son who demanded his inheritance and squandered it, who traded his family for nothing. But he kept walking, because even shame was better than dying alone with the pig. Meanwhile, on the farm, Abraham did something he'd done every day since Daniel left. He stood at the edge of the property, looking down the road, waiting, watching, hoping. Samuel saw his father do this every single day. It made him angry.
He's not coming back, Father. And even if he does, after what he did, after how he disrespected you.
He's my son, Abraham said simply, as he always did. This particular evening, as the sun set and painted the sky orange and gold, Abraham saw something. A figure in the distance, walking slowly, head down, clothes ragged. Abraham's heart recognized what his eyes couldn't yet confirm. That walk, that build, even broken and bent, he knew. It was Daniel. Abraham didn't wait, didn't stand on dignity, didn't fold his arms and let his son crawl home to face judgment. He ran, an old man, running down the road, robes flying, sandals kicking up dust, running toward the broken figure of his son. Daniel looked up, saw his father running toward him. He opened his mouth to speak the words he'd rehearsed, to beg for servanthood, to grovel for mercy. But before he could speak, Abraham reached him. And instead of anger, instead of lectures, instead of the judgment Daniel deserved, his father wrapped him in an embrace, held him tight, the way you hold something precious you thought you'd lost forever. Daniel tried to speak, the rehearsed words stumbling out. Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Abraham pulled back, looked at his son's face, thin, scarred, aged beyond his years. You are my son, Abraham said, his voice breaking with emotion. You were always my son, even when you were far away, even when you thought you'd lost everything. You were always mine. He turned to the servants who'd come running. Bring the best robe, put a ring on his finger, sandals on his feet. Prepare a feast. My son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. That night, the house filled with music, dancing, celebration. Abraham never left Daniel's side, kept his hand on his son's shoulder, as if afraid he might disappear again. Daniel couldn't speak, could barely comprehend what was happening. He'd prepared for rejection, for servanthood, for the consequences of his choices. But this unconditional love, this complete acceptance, this celebration of his return, he didn't deserve it. He knew he didn't, but his father gave it anyway. Samuel stood outside, heard the music, saw the lights, learned his brother had returned, and refused to come inside. Abraham came out to him, pleaded with him to join the celebration. "I've been here all along," Samuel said bitterly. "I never left. I never disrespected you, and you never threw a party for me." Abraham took his son's hand. "Everything I have is yours. It always has been. But your brother was lost, and now he's found. How could we not celebrate that?" This story isn't just about a family. It's about God and us. No matter how far we've run, no matter what we've wasted, no matter how unworthy we feel, our Father is watching the road, waiting, ready to run toward us the moment we turn back. For we share listed madam and cheeseborder. If they am an east case, if this is made is a rival tool by any beast, if before Tanet Shioku is the Pulim Proliotic, Lakabra.